William and Catherine did not simply relocate, they allegedly fled Windsor in the dead of night, carrying 3 sleepy children away from a home that may have concealed an unthinkable secret directly beneath their beds. Not a shadow near the gates, not an intruder climbing a wall, not some distant photographer hiding among the trees. According to this extraordinary account, the danger had supposedly been sitting underneath their youngest son's bedroom for nearly 2 years, silently escaping the security officers, engineers, inspections, and elaborate safeguards surrounding one of Britain's most closely watched families. 2 years. How could something remain hidden for that long? Who knew about it? And why did an apparently ordinary structural inspection suddenly turn Adelaide Cottage from a carefully chosen family sanctuary into the center of a terrifying mystery? To understand why this alleged discovery struck so deeply, you must understand what William and Catherine believed they were choosing when they moved there in 2022. Newspapers portrayed the decision as charming royal downsizing, fewer rooms, less staff, more grass, and a supposedly simpler upbringing for George, Charlotte, and Louis. But this was never merely about square footage. It was an emotional wager that royal children could experience privacy, domestic warmth, and something resembling an ordinary home despite the machinery surrounding their lives. Adelaide Cottage offered gardens instead of echoing galleries, private bedrooms instead of palace corridors, and a kitchen where Catherine could prepare weeknight dinners and birthday cakes without an army of employees hovering nearby. Larger and grander Windsor properties were reportedly available, yet the smaller cottage was deliberately selected because it represented boundaries. It represented doors that closed. It represented a childhood in which 3 children might briefly forget that the outside world was constantly watching them. That is what makes the alleged discovery so disturbing. The family did not merely risk losing a building, they risked losing their belief that any boundary had existed at all. The reported inspection began without alarms, warnings, or dramatic intelligence. Engineers entered with ordinary equipment to examine the foundations of an aging property. 17 minutes later, everything reportedly changed. Beneath Adelaide Cottage, they allegedly uncovered passages older than the residence itself, including sections said to date to the English Civil War in the 1640s. Decades of records apparently contained no clear mention of them. Surveys had missed them, security teams had missed them, yet forgotten corridors were reportedly running beneath a residence protected precisely because nothing about its vulnerabilities was supposed to remain unknown. Old tunnels alone could have been sealed, documented, and dismissed as an embarrassing historical oversight. But this account claims the engineers discovered signs suggesting the passages were not empty. At roughly 1:15 midnight, sensors reportedly registered movement where nothing should have been moving. William awakened first, supposedly alerted by subtle changes as officers began searching the lower corridors. Catherine woke seconds later. Neither immediately spoke. Then came a quiet but persistent knock. William opened the bedroom door to Marcus Headley, the head of their personal protection unit, with 3 officers positioned behind him. The expression in that corridor allegedly made reassurance impossible. Headley reportedly explained that engineers had found evidence of recent and repeated human activity beneath the cottage. Unrusted tools, fresh footprints, newly purchased water bottles, a clean folding chair, a thermal blanket, and photographs, not historical pictures. Recent images allegedly showing the Wales family moving through ordinary routines, captured from angles suggesting intimate knowledge of their schedules, movements, and unguarded hours. They were under the house. 5 words that reportedly transformed every warm room above into a scene of invisible surveillance. Somebody may have been sitting beneath that floor while the family slept, ate, laughed, argued, and believed themselves protected. Catherine allegedly moved toward the children's rooms before the briefing was even finished. No debate, no hesitation. George, Charlotte, and Louis had to be awakened, dressed, and removed before investigators could determine what else was hidden below. The calm public composure associated with Catherine reportedly narrowed into one instinct: protect the children. She moved from bed to bed, calling the evacuation a midnight adventure, while William watched from the doorway. George was old enough to recognize that midnight adventures do not normally involve protection officers. Charlotte was alert enough to puncture the comforting explanation with one devastating question: "Are we safe here, Mommy?" Catherine reportedly paused for only half a second, but William understood everything contained inside that silence. 3 vehicles waited outside with running engines, predetermined routes, and emergency bags that were reportedly updated 4 times every year, a chilling reminder that beneath the polished appearances existed preparations for precisely this kind of night. William carried Louis downstairs, still half asleep against his shoulder, while Catherine guided the older children behind him. In the November darkness, one child's shoe came loose on the stairs. Catherine allegedly stood on the gravel wearing a coat over her nightclothes, holding that shoe and smiling toward the frightened children so they would not notice the fear surrounding them. Before entering the vehicle, she reportedly looked back at Adelaide Cottage. Illuminated windows, motionless walls, and the family home they had chosen so carefully now transformed by one one unbearable possibility. William reached for her hand. Then they left while the unanswered question remained beneath the floor. By dawn, white forensic tents reportedly covered the lawns of Adelaide Cottage, each positioned above another entrance to the hidden network, and the deeper investigators looked, the more horrifying the mystery became. Detective Chief Inspector Sarah Wright arrived with ground-penetrating radar and thermal imaging equipment, uncovering passages that allegedly stretched beyond the cottage, reached Windsor Castle, and connected with 4 other properties, including Frogmore Cottage and Royal Lodge. Think about that terrifying possibility, an unseen route bypassing gates, cameras, checkpoints, and every expensive security measure guarding the Windsor estate. Worse still, investigators allegedly discovered a makeshift camp beneath the bedroom where Prince Louis slept, complete with water, a chair, a blanket, surveillance photographs, and detailed observations of Catherine's morning route, the school run, and protection shift changes. This was not accidental wandering. It appeared methodical. Hidden chambers reportedly contained older camps dating back almost 2 years, suggesting someone had been underneath the family through 2 winters, 2 Christmases, birthday celebrations, garden games, and countless supposedly private nights. And the journals recovered below allegedly revealed an obsession spiraling dangerously out of control. A digital trail reportedly led to an account called Windsor Truth Seeker, where theories about buried royal treasure appeared beside maps resembling documents recovered in Berkshire. Miranda Foster examined the pattern, interest becoming study, study becoming grievance, and grievance transforming into imagined personal betrayal. The investigation identified Malcolm Hriss, a 47-year-old former historical curator from Kent, whose archival knowledge supposedly allowed access to forgotten 17th century plans. Yet later journal references used Hendrik X, deepening an already unsettling account. 8 to 10-hour underground sessions gradually became surveillance of the family, with distant observation twisting into imaginary intimacy. William reportedly understood instantly that cameras and sealed entrances could not neutralize somebody willing to sacrifice 2 years to hiding beneath a home. King Charles received the devastating briefing at Clarence House, and royal history reportedly made every detail feel even darker. Michael Fagan had entered Buckingham Palace in 1982 and reached the Queen's bedroom. Joshua Singcha entered Windsor Castle grounds carrying a crossbow on Christmas Day 2021 before the Old Bailey sentenced him in October 2023. Those men crossed physical boundaries from above. This suspected intruder allegedly arrived underneath them, and hanging silently over everything was the memory of a tunnel in Paris in August 1997, uncontrollable cameras, and a funeral 6 days later. Nobody needed to say Diana. The parallel was already screaming. The children's reactions allegedly exposed the true cost. Louis dreamed about monsters underground. Charlotte repeatedly checked doors and windows. George became quiet, studying his parents' expressions and asking whether the man remained free. Investigators traced a vehicle to a rented cottage 3 miles away, but officers reportedly found it abandoned. The search expanded nationwide, yet 6 months of digital forensics produced nothing. Evidence inside suggested research into Sandringham and Balmoral, while Dr. Foster warned that humiliation could push obsessive watching toward action. Nobody wanted to name what might come next. 3 weeks later, William and Catherine reportedly confronted the unbearable truth. Tunnels could be sealed, sensors installed, and security strengthened, but the memory could never be removed. Catherine walked through Adelaide Cottage one final time, passing the kitchen, sitting room, and bedrooms that once represented an ordinary childhood. William examined the upgrades, knowing they would transform the cottage into the heavily monitored royal environment they had tried to escape. The public statement described comprehensive infrastructure and security work, but those sterile words concealed the emotional wreckage. Malcolm Hendricks never discovered treasure because no treasure existed, only stone, water, forgotten records, and a family's shattered sense of safety. Chris remained missing. Adelaide Cottage stood empty. Charlotte kept checking the doors, Louis kept asking about returning home, and George stood silently at windows. On Christmas Eve, William and Catherine reportedly discussed where the family might live in spring, both avoiding the obvious conclusion their carefully built sanctuary was probably gone forever. The passages could be closed, the evidence could be removed, but somewhere beyond Windsor, Fricks was allegedly still out there, and the most frightening chapter may not have even begun.